Welcome, welcome, beloved goddesses. Welcome to our Persephone circle. Such an honor to be with you at this very tender time for us women. So I'm just going to give a minute or two to check in, and please let me know if you can hear me by letting Clarice know. So beloved Clarice, just let me know in our private chat here on Facebook if you can hear me okay. I know last time there was a little bit of an issue when we started, so just want to make sure everything sounds good. Let me check my volume is pretty high. Let me know if it's too high. Can definitely fix that for you. And okay, great. So Clarice is saying everything is good. And let's just get our recorder ready for the meditation. Okay, my love, so if there are any issues at any time, Clarice is in the Facebook group live to assist you with anything. And if you're not in our Facebook group, you can email her at team@flourishinggoddess.com if you're having any issues at all during our live broadcast. And otherwise, I welcome you now just to settle in by turning off all your other notifications, applications, windows, everything, and really just letting this be a time of retreat for you and a time of sitting together in sacred circle, which is so very, very needed right now. So just welcoming you as I see you all coming in. Such a blessing to gather, whether you're joining us live or on replay. Energetically, we are connected in all of time. So I'm just so blessed to have you. And I just want to share how honored I am to host these circles, have this kind of space, create this kind of space for us, because there's just so much happening in our world where we women are feeling so triggered, and I am feeling it along right with you. And it's so essential for us to take this time to gather in sisterhood, as well as to honor ourselves and to just get into this bubble where we can have the tools and practices and support and sacred feminine goddess inspiration to reconnect with our power, so that we can come out of that and face what's happening in the world and in our lives with that empowerment, with that wisdom, with that grace, with that passionate, fierce strength to create the changes that we really need in our world right now. So I pray that our Persephone circle today really supports you with that, my loves. So before we begin, as always, let's get grounded. And I'm going to invite us all to just open our hands out, bringing the left palm up and the right down. And we're going to just open our arms and see and feel or visualize ourselves connecting with our sisters all over the world in sacred circle. And as we connect, we can see these divine sisters shining, and we're holding hands. And we're just going to ground into the earth by feeling or seeing or imagining roots growing from the soles of our feet, through the ground, through the layers of the earth, all the way to the heart and core of Mother Earth. She's going to anchor us. If there's anything that's been happening this week for us, anything going on in our life where we are in our heads, where it's been challenging to get present and centered, just allow Mother Earth to send you her nourishing love and energy, her Shakti, to immediately replenish you, to fill you with her prana, her chi, her Shakti, her life force energy. And if there's anything you need to let go of in order to truly become receptive and open in this circle today, just surrendering it to her. She takes it from you to transmute it so that you can just relax and let go and receive all the guidance and blessings that you need right now. Breathing this in. We ask Persephone and all the goddesses to be with us. And no matter when we join, this circle now is blessed with the energy of tonight's new moon, which is also the celebration of Diwali. Very, very powerful, potent energy permeating through this sacred circle that will reach you whenever you join. May the goddesses shield us all in a bubble of protective golden light, ensuring that everything that comes up and happens and unfolds is truly for all of our best and highest good. We now open to all the transformation that the goddess Persephone can bring us as a deity, as an archetype, as a sacred feminine aspect of our own selves, however you want to connect with her, beloved. And if you have any personal intentions for this circle, specifically around healing, shadow work, unconscious blocks, just sharing them with Persephone, your higher self, the goddesses. And we truly open to divine infinite support in this circle. We open to miracles. So be it, and so it is. The space is now sacred, shielded, and blessed. And gently bringing your hands back in front of your heart. And when you're ready, opening your eyes. Oh, my loves, how are you doing? It is a very, very interesting time for us women right now. As of this week, we are immersed in this Me Too movement because we are speaking up against sexual abuse and assault. And this is such tied to Persephone's experience as well. And it doesn't surprise me that it all lined up. Obviously, this was not something that was planned, and yet I know the goddess in her wisdom knew that this is something that we will need today. So in honor of this healing that we all need, let us get to know Persephone, remembering that Persephone, you can connect with her in any way, as a myth, as an archetype, as a sacred feminine aspect of your own self. So I have here, as you can see, my Persephone altar with her pomegranate. And I love these two specific images of her. Here we have her as the the goddess of spring, and creating new life and flowers, and in her innocent maiden aspect. And then here we have her as the dark goddess, the queen, and with the tear, she's in that phase of raw transformation. For me, this represents her abduction, which I'll be talking about. So in our last circle, if you joined us, we dedicated that to Demeter, who is Persephone's mother. And Demeter is the goddess of the harvest, the earth, and she is a very, very central figure because life on earth cannot exist without Demeter, right? So Demeter is very powerful to that end as the mother goddess of the harvest. However, Persephone, being her daughter, is the love of Demeter's life. And yet Persephone is also in Demeter's shadow when she's growing up. So Persephone is, as a maiden aspect, known as Kor, or even Kora. But as the Kor, she is the child, and she is the perpetual woman child, right? So this is us when we are young and innocent, and we just want the love and approval of our mother as well as our father. So the Persephone archetype, if it's active within you, what it would look like is, as a child, you're introverted, and you wait for things to happen to you, and you can be very dreamy and very impressionable and are a wonderful mirror, but also very adaptive, and really focus on ensuring that everyone approves of you and that everyone's happy around you. And you don't want to, this is not the child that throws tantrums. Is a child that is a lot more passive and might get very sad and is very sensitive. So what ends up happening to the maiden Persephone is many women end up staying in the state of the woman child. And what this can look like is we're sort of just going through the motions. We might have a job, we might even be married, we might even be a mother, but we have this feeling like I'm not really living my life because we haven't made these choices from a place of transformation and consciousness and empowerment. We've just sort of she's very go with the flow, which can be good. So the gift of the maiden aspect of Persephone is that it's receptivity. She's very receptive, and this is when we we allow ourselves to be shown the signs to make a decision, and we also allow other people to be themselves, to give them space. So there's this receptivity that can be a gift, but then the shadow aspect of that is passivity. And so Persephone as a maiden can be quite passive. Other archetypes of the Persephone myth are like our Disney princesses, Sleeping Beauty and Snow White and Cinderella, who are waiting for a knight in shining armor to come and save them, right? Save them from being a child and help them to become a princess and eventually queen and a mother. And so there's some danger in these kinds of myths because women who are powerful are usually killed. So for example, in those stories, the mother of Cinderella or Snow White is usually dead, and it's implied that she was a kind queen, and then the evil stepmother or the sorceress takes over. And so they're showing that women in power are evil, but women as maidens are the ones who will get that knight in shining armor. They will get the happily ever after. So that has done a huge disservice to us women because it keeps us in the state of sometimes feeling like we have to wait until something good happens to us for us to get our happily ever after, instead of being our own heroines and creating the life that we want, creating our own happily ever after, right? So if Persephone had stayed with Demeter, she would have stayed a perpetual child. And the shadow aspect of Demeter is, on one hand, she's extremely loving, but on the other hand, she's overprotective and overbearing. And this can be when a parent is threatened by your independence. So, they can do everything to want what's best for you, but they also enable your dependency, and it becomes a very codependent relationship because it gives them a sense of authority and purpose and being needed. But then and it gives a child a sense of safety and security and being directed and guided and supported. But then as a maiden, you don't know how to go out on your own and how to, become a woman, a full, whole woman. So what's happening to Persephone in her maiden form is, as a goddess of spring, she's just very innocent and naive and happy to pick flowers with her friends and be in the shelter of her mother. And under her mother's protection, she does not take any risks. And when we don't face these adversities in our life, we don't have a chance to, unfold and activate those strengths that are inside of us because we haven't needed to use them, right? So this is not to say that we can't learn and grow in gentle and harmonious ways, and it's definitely something we can do, but to purposely try to avoid that and to avoid making decisions on our own, to going into the unknown, to stepping into uncertainty, that is also part of growth and transformation. That when we're in the maiden aspect too much, we can wait for that powerful man to come and do for us, or the knight in shining armor, or somebody else to save us or to take us on an adventure, but we're more of a passenger rather than the driver in that story. And that story is your own life, right? So I definitely invite you to consider where in your life maybe or maybe when in your life you were in this maiden aspect of hoping and waiting for something to happen to you, instead of feeling like you have the power to create it, even if it's going to be scary and out of your comfort zone, even if others might disapprove, including and especially your mother or your father. So, is that something that you are struggling with right now? And if it is, please share it in our Facebook group so we can support you, my love. So then what ends up happening with Persephone is she is abducted. And the abduction into the underworld by the god Hades, it leads to her transformation to becoming the queen of the underworld. And what I really want to share with us today to help us in a very spiritual but as well as practical way for us is to break down the levels of transformation that Persephone as a queen goddess of the underworld can really help us with, because that's what we're focusing on today, is embracing our own queen of the underworld, and letting that maiden part of us that might be afraid to delve into the unknown, which outside of our outer life is the inner world, right? To delve into our own shadow world. That is what takes a lot of courage. And sometimes when we don't go there ourselves, life will bring us a trauma or a tragedy to initiate us into our underworld. And sometimes this can look like a loss or depression. And I've gone through those, and that's why I've been able to do what I do, is because I've traveled those inner under realms, and now I can be a guide for others as they go there, because I know how painful it can be, but also how healing, necessary, and transformational it can be, and that there's so many gifts there as well for us, and we don't need to be afraid of it and avoid it, right? So let's just get into now some of the phases. So the first phase, as I see it, is of her as the innocent maiden. So this is that Sleeping Beauty, Snow White phase, right? So we've just talked about that. The second phase is then the abduction. So what's happening behind the scenes is Hades, the god of the underworld, brother of Zeus, he's very lonely and he wants a wife, and no one wants to live with him in the underworld because that's where everyone goes after they die. So it's not exactly a lively place, right? So nobody wants to hang out with Hades. Hades ends up falling in love with Persephone because he sees her always picking flowers and she's so innocent and beautiful. And he asks Zeus to ask for Demeter for her hand. And Zeus says there's no way Demeter is going to part with her daughter. So they devise a plan to then abduct Persephone. And what ends up happening is Gaia creates a narcissus flower, and its scent is so intoxicating that Persephone goes to reach for it. And as she goes to reach for this flower, the ground beneath her opens and Hades comes on his golden chariot and he abducts her, and the ground immediately closes, so no one actually hears her screams. She's taken into the underworld. So we already talked in the Demeter circle about how Demeter goes into grief and doesn't eat and for 9 days and 9 nights, and she has her own journey. So if you want to know more about Demeter's side, you can watch her circle, but this is about Persephone. So now what's happening to Persephone is she's thrust into the underworld, and in many interpretations of the myth, she's actually initially raped by Hades, and she's made his unwilling bride. So this is obviously an extremely traumatic experience for her, because she has always been in the unconditional loving space and safety of her mother's guard and protection, and now she's been taken by this male powerful figure of the underworld, the god of the underworld, into the depths of darkness, and then she was raped and forced into being married to him. So this has been a very triggering time for us women this week, specifically with the Me Too movement. And whenever you watch this, this is something that I hope this conversation will evolve, and the awareness of it will become much broader because it's so necessary. But on a very literal level, these myths began perpetuating the power of men over women, right? So classical Greek mythology was patriarchal, I just want to be very clear about that, that we don't want to romanticize some of the ways in which they actually degraded the position of the goddess. So older, more ancient Europe was a time of goddesses being free and independent. And basically then in the Bronze Age, it started transitioning because the Greek culture became a lot more warlike, and the archetype of the conqueror became more valued. And the goddess was in opposition to that because she was about community, connection, agriculture, and collaboration and sharing. And the conqueror, was threatened by that. So definitely by the Greek Golden Age, the Olympian Age, what ends up happening is the goddesses, their positions are completely transformed. And so Persephone now, in this mythology, is seen as this innocent maiden who's taken into the underworld against her will and raped by a powerful male god. And, these kind of mythologies have planted seeds in following religions and patriarchal culture, which is why we women are facing this. Collectively, we have been for 5,000 years. Something to really be aware of, my loves, because it's time for us to reclaim that. Okay, I'll share with you how Persephone does it, but I even feel like we need to evolve beyond that at this point. So then Persephone initially is the victim. Okay, and that's something very important to acknowledge. Sometimes in our spiritual healing work, there can be this thing called spiritual bypassing, where something traumatic happens and someone is in complete raw grief. And those of us, who are maybe on the spiritual path might feel like, oh, love and light, sending you blessings, sending you prayers. And, that can actually come off as a little insensitive and cold, because that person is in that moment a victim of what happened to them. So there's the male god, the person that did it, the perpetuator. And at the same time, Persephone has experienced this trauma. So that deserves a lot of compassion. Now, how does this relate to us personally is when this abduction into the underworld is when something happens in our life that does not, of course, have to be a rape. And, pray with all my heart that that is not the case for you, my loved. But it's any event in your life that thrusts you into a dark night of the soul. Normally, this happens, the Persephone initiation happens when, like her, we were perhaps a little, became very comfortable. And we became very complacent even, and we didn't want to make changes. Maybe, we're in a toxic job, and our boss or coworkers are, very abusive, and yet the paycheck's really good and it's comfortable, and we just say, oh, well, I'm just gonna go for my paycheck, right? Or we're in a relationship with a guy that doesn't really honor us and treat us well, but we think, oh, but, it's a tough world out there, and I don't wanna go on Tinder, so I'm just gonna stick with the guy I found. So there's just so many ways where we get comfortable. And even if something isn't for our highest good, there's a safety around it, right? It's familiarity, the comfort there. If it's like better to have what we know, even if it's not good, than go into the unknown. So then what can happen is this sudden abduction into the underworld, as in perhaps that company is bought and you're let go, right? Or you're fired, or that boyfriend ends up, you catch him cheating on you, or anything else. But it's a very jarring and harsh wake-up call. But the wake-up call is first thrusting you into the depths of your own underworld. So these are initiations that Persephone brings upon us and for us, for our highest good. But when we're in the middle of it, it's so raw, it's so tender. And at that time, what you need to do is have complete self-compassion, right? To take such tender, sacred self-care of yourself. This is the time to get support. This is the time to grieve. This is the time to, get therapy if you can, do healing work, to rest more, to sleep, to journal. It's really a time of just allowing yourself to incubate and process what's happening, right? So this is the practice here. The invitation here is please honor your grief. right? And at the same time, don't let it define you. Don't like embrace it, right? But don't let it overpower you. Because Hades represents that shadow part of us that so goddess traditions like Inanna and Ereshkigal, which you'll learn about in my book, there's the queen of the underworld. In Norse mythology, there's Hela, the queen of the underworld. You know, Persephone is the queen of the underworld as well, but in those realms, there's no king, so the goddesses rule on their own. Whereas here, Hades represents the shadow that says, come down here for healing. You've been up there too long, too protected, too unaware of what's happening beneath the surface. So then when we go into this depth, we have to be willing to face what we find. And this is the third phase of this transformation. So what happened in the myth is that Persephone now begins to see Hades that as a kind and, you know, actually loving God. So she begins to have compassion for him, and she sees that, oh, he was actually very, very lonely, and he has this huge responsibility of taking care of all the, you know, ghosts and souls of the underworld. And she eventually begins to fall in love with him and accepts him as her husband, and she takes her rightful seat beside his throne as the queen of the underworld. And I want to talk about this because I really want to make sure this is interpreted the right way, in a way that empowers you and doesn't give you the wrong message. So the empowering message here is that Hades, when he represents our shadow, is that our shadow is there to bring us into deeper self-love, right? Hades is that part of us in even the Greek mythology. No one wants to hang out with him. No one wants to be with him. He's that god of the underworld. And so our shadow makes us uncomfortable. We don't want to go there. So Persephone, now being thrust there, realizes that that part, Hades, needs compassion and needs her unconditional love, understanding, and acceptance. That is that part of you. That is the part of you that you've been most unwilling to acknowledge and love, that you have not wanted to even admit that it's there. And that is a part of you that is loneliest and needs the most love. So this can be your fear, your grief, your anxiety, your wounds, your insecurity, your envy, all these kinds of darker parts of us that we tend to keep underground, right? So when we can learn to love these darkest parts of ourselves, that is our journey to healing and wholeness. Now, there's a shadow aspect of this, both psychologically as well as very literally in our life. So the shadow psychologically is that we can then get stuck and we don't know how to navigate and find the lesson there and then come back to the light. We can't just stay in the underworld forever either. That's why it's really important to remember the cycles, that Persephone is both the goddess of spring and the underworld. So this is now when we become attached to our depression, when we define ourselves as someone who is depressed and we sort of linger there and almost indulge in that, and we don't want to get help and we don't really want to feel better because maybe we're finding now everyone is supporting us and, you know, being there for us, and we're getting inadvertently, indirectly, all of a sudden all this love and attention and support. This is really dangerous, especially in this age of social media, where we can put something out and, you know, people come and you're flooded with support. But then people get busy again, and then you might feel like you need to keep posting things and, you know, to get that validation, approval, connection, support. And so the real invitation here is to learn how to give that to yourself. And when you learn how to give that to yourself, then you can free yourself to rise again. So something to be aware of, my loves. Now, something I have to be very, very clear about. Shadow aspect of this, of the Persephone archetype in relationships, is that you can be attracted to partners, male, female, whomever, who are in power, but the type that might take advantage of your innocence and this ability of yours to see that behind this darkness there is good, there is light, you know, there is potential for love here and healing from in this person. So we can end up attracting narcissists and addicts and even abusive men or people. So please know that when I'm talking about Persephone learning to love and accept Hades, I'm talking about you learning to love and accept all of yourself, the part of you that is scary, the part of you that you don't want to face, the part of you that you want to deny. We're not talking about going out and loving and accepting and attracting people who are not for your highest good, people who are abusive or take advantage of their power, or people who take advantage of your innocence. So energetically, this can be a really a bit of a trap that we can get into, because the Persephone archetype, in your innocence, you can on one hand attract someone just like you. So when we're young, for example, high school, we are the maiden, so we may attract the male counterpart as well, and that's just like the innocent youth, the young love, the first love. But that's not what I'm talking about in this moment. Okay, so I just want to make sure that we're very clear on what I'm talking about here with the Persephone archetype and the kind of men we can attract, because the Persephone is also this, you are a priestess, right? You can take people into their own depths. And I'm going to talk about that later, about coming out from the underworld and Persephone and her transformation. But please be aware of that we are not in any way condoning, when we talk about Persephone falling in love with Hades, that as a woman, you fall in love with a man in power who abuses his power. That's not what this is about. This is about you learning to love and accept every part of yourself, and seeing Hades very much as a metaphor, right? It was like a very Jungian psychology interpretation of this myth, right? Because we have been very disempowered with the literal interpretation of these gods raping goddesses. Not acceptable. This is the time to make sure that we are very clear about how we interpret these myths, to ensure that they serve us rather than work against us individually and collectively as women. Okay, my loves? All right, so I just want to say that's why the pomegranate is also her symbol, because the pomegranate has the hard exterior, but then it has seeds on the inside. But then there's another part to this story. So what ends up happening is now Persephone has fallen in love with Hades, as in now you have fully fallen in love with every part of yourself, right? And you become a guide. She becomes the queen of the underworld. She guides all the souls into the afterlife. And she's just so amazing at her role of knowing exactly how to guide these souls. There's other heroes and heroines that come through into the underworld for their own journeys, and she's always there to support them as well. So she is just a queen now. And what ends up happening is, what Demeter has been doing is, she was in the depression, so on Earth nothing is growing, and now Zeus is really concerned that the Earth is not going to last and bear fruit, and life was at risk here. So he says, okay, Hades has to return Persephone. But at this point, Persephone is no longer this innocent child. She has become a woman. She's become a queen. Now, of course, she misses her mother as well. So what she does is, Hades offers her a pomegranate, and she eats 6 seeds. Now, there's different interpretations of this, but the one I like and find very resonant is 6 seeds, and for each seed she has to spend 1 month in the underworld. So in this way, she spends 6 months with her mother and 6 months in the underworld. And when she comes back, it's spring. So now this is the journey of the goddess from the underworld into a new season, and she creates spring along with her mother. And Demeter is more the energy of summer, fullness, and harvest, and Persephone is definitely a lot more the goddess of spring. And so that's another reason why the pomegranate is her symbol. So back with Demeter, when she's reunited, Demeter is ecstatic, of course, but she immediately asks, when you were in the underworld, did you eat anything? And she says, oh, Hades made me, against my will, eat pomegranate seeds. So another shadow aspect of the Persephone archetype is that she's so afraid of losing the love and approval of the mother, the father, the parent, the spouse, the children, the friend, is that she will be a little manipulative, not own her power and say, you know what? I'm a woman now, mom, and I want to be with my husband, and I am a queen, and I'm happy to hang out with you half the year, and I have a role to play the other half the year, and I want to be the goddess of spring and the goddess of, the underworld. So she doesn't own that. She tells her mother, oh, I was sort of forced to do this, because she still wants her mother's approval. So something to be mindful of again, right? I want to be really transparent about all these goddess teachings, because sometimes we can, again, really romanticize and idealize them, but there are shadow aspects to all, just like there's been such shadow to masculine. And I think you have to be fair. We're so focused on the shadow of the masculine, even though there's so much divine of the masculine as well. And there's shadow of the feminine as well. So this shadow aspect is when we're so afraid of, a friend offending them, or them not liking us, or thinking differently of us, that we might not tell the full truth, right? So that, again, is a part of us that we have to go back and heal and then own as a queen. Okay, so what else is happening when Persephone comes back is that she is now transformed. And she doesn't have that same naivety that she had when she was first abducted. So because she is now queen of the underworld and she's gone through this whole initiation, now her and Demeter end up creating the Eleusinian mysteries. And this is the final stage. So Persephone has come back into wholeness, right? And she is now the queen of both spring and death, transformation, the underworld, grief, healing, as well as learning true unconditional love and acceptance. So she, together with Demeter, now create this temple, the Eleusinian mysteries. And this was the major religion of the Greeks that was practiced for 2,000 years before basically Christianity. And there, as we shared in the Demeter circle, her devotees were taken into, they're called mysteries because it was very, very secretive. But what we know is that once initiates went in, when they came out, they were transformed. They had no more fear of death. So Persephone gave this gift to us, is that because she delved into the depths of the realm of death and she transformed and became a queen, she is now teaching other people how to navigate these realms and how to lose that fear of death, not even so much physical death, but death of the old self, death of that we have outgrown, that is no longer in alignment with this next phase of our growth and evolution. So the gifts here are when we go through transformation in our own lives, we can come out on the other side with such richness of gifts. So for example, if we're depressed, I've been so severely depressed in my life, to the point where I had no will to live, that now when I'm serving my clients, and if not that I consider myself qualified enough to help them that way professionally, I always recommend getting, professional help for that with a psychiatrist, psychologist if they need to. However, I know for sure that the space I can hold and the compassion I can hold is at the same depth of the depression that I once had. So I often find that they heal not because I maybe have the credentials, but because I can offer them the compassion, because I know how they're feeling. And that creates so much healing. When you come out from this dark night of the soul and you're transformed and you become that queen, you can take that transformation to heal and guide and inspire others as they enter perhaps a dark night of the soul, or a time of grief in their life, or time of loss in their life. Other ways that you can practice this, if you really want to take it further, are becoming a shaman, a therapist, an oracle reader, a guide, a priestess, a healer, and just helping people navigate these realms that are very, very uncomfortable and scary, and where we just have the most resistance. Okay, my loves. So in all these phases, I hope you can see the transformation of the goddess Persephone, but really how this is the heroine's journey. This is our journey of going. And by the way, many male heroes' journeys have this as well, right? Where it's a young lad who's very innocent and adventurous, and then he goes through all this adversity to eventually become a warrior or a king. So this is our heroine's journey of the young, innocent core, the child maiden becoming a full woman and a queen, whole and complete unto herself. And the final thing I want to leave you with is that Persephone is defined outside of her roles as well. She is no longer just wife of Hades or just daughter of Demeter. So the other gift Persephone teaches us to remind ourselves to not enmesh ourselves in these roles and relationships with other people. She is a queen unto herself. So where in your life are you perhaps have enmeshed your identity with somebody else's, even if it's not a person, but a situation, a relationship with your career? And how can you fully come into your queendom, your sovereign power, fully and completely on your own outside of that? Because when you do that, then you can play that role with even more power and even more effect, right? With bring even more blessings. So some practices I would love to share with you to really harness this energy and these gifts from Persephone. First of all, my loves, be willing. Just be willing to go into the unknown, to the uncertainty, to all that is uncomfortable, to that Hades, to that shadow that we don't want to face, okay? We tend to deny this so much. And I feel like it's more challenging now in a world with social media. We're so bombarded all the time, and the shadow keeps coming up individually and collectively, right? So really being willing to face this, and then to face and feel everything. Give yourself permission. Don't get into a space of like, oh, law of attraction says I have to think positive and only think about what I want. And if I think about this thing that's negative, then, oh, I'm being negative. That's not the same thing. The shadow aspect is indulging and staying stuck, but there is sometimes necessary grief that you have to process, right? So feel and face everything fully. And make sure you do this in a very safe and supportive way, whether it's you create a little red tent for yourself, you create candles and just a sanctuary where you can cry, where you can journal, where you can talk to Persephone or the goddess or your angels, whoever you connect with. Be willing to face your own inner shadow queen, king, right? And then let her speak. Let her speak to you. We're going to be doing that in our meditation, so you really get a sense of that. And another thing you can do is write your dreams, because dreams are messages from your unconscious, and the unconscious is the realm of the queen of the underworld. And especially write down any dreams that are very emotional, that are very triggering, that are very vivid. Even if you don't remember exactly what happened, write your impressions and write your feelings and emotions. And then perhaps interpret, where in my life could I be feeling this way? Because dreams that are vivid, dreams that are repetitive, dreams that are very emotional are always messages from your unconscious, and that they require conscious awareness and witnessing so that you can heal that issue within yourself as well as in your life, because it's also your intuition, right? So it's this sense that you really want to hone and honor. And then other things are to really spend time to discover what you want and desire and commit to that, because the shadow aspect of the maiden child is that, again, like just very flighty, flaky, la la la, la la la, right? And then feeling like, what's my purpose? I feel like I'm just sort of fluttering here and there, but I haven't really found that thing. So you have to take responsibility to find your purpose, to find that dream, to find that calling, to find whatever that is, even if it's a hobby, even if it's a new habit of meditation. But just knowing that it's something you're doing of your own volition, of your own conviction. and owning it, right? And not just going to the school your parents say, or taking that job that's expected of you, or marrying the guy that has the full package, but you don't really love him, and doing the expected. But it's okay to do the expected as long as it's what you want for yourself. So that's the invitation. Really be radically honest with, what do I want? Not what others want for me, not what I've been told I should want, but what do I want? And embracing that. And so that might mean when you face that, oh, my mom's not going to approve, my husband's going to have an issue, my kids are, going to freak out. You have to give yourself permission to face that, because the more you don't, the stronger the shadow becomes, because then you're denying these parts of yourself. And so the shadow needs to get your attention. And then when you're not, it can lead to something happening on the outside to get your attention, right? And this is all for your highest good. This is all to make sure that you are being authentic, that you are living your path, that you are being true to yourself. And finally, my loves, it's about learning how to be your own heroine, right? To be self-sufficient, to, on the one hand, invite Persephone's gift of receptivity and flow. If you find that there's somewhere in your life that you're very stuck. So for example, like the Athena energy, Athena just goes. But Persephone says, let me wait. I feel like I need to feel into this. So the gift is that if you're too much in the other modes of the, go-getter goddesses, that you need to balance it with some Persephone to be patient, to be receptive, and to wait to either get clarity on your feelings, or for a situation to advance to the next level, or something to fall into place. So she trusts in some of that divine timing as well. But then on the other hand, you then want to balance that with the Athena energy of being your own heroine, making things happen for yourself, making your own decisions. And when you do, when you become the queen, then owning it, not having to go back to the mother and say, oh, I was sort of forced into this, not being passive about it, but owning the decisions that you make, and knowing that some people will not approve, they might withhold their love, but that is about them. And you can have the heart-to-hearts, you can invite them into evolving the dynamic of the relationship in a new way, and it can honestly bring so much more growth for both of you. It can be empowering for everybody involved. And then just being your own heroine by taking that risk, by allowing in the pain of disapproval, of separation, just because otherwise the price is you won't really find yourself, right? And that's what you deserve to do, to become that queen. So I hope this has been helpful, both from that psychological and unconscious perspective, as well as how to apply this in your life. And I would love to hear in our meditation, in our Facebook group, how you are going to be applying this, maybe what you've learned about yourself, how you, maybe have some of the archetype alive in you, both in, the way that is serving you, and maybe in a way that it's in its shadow, in a way that's not serving you, and how now you may want to heal that. So, we can all know that we're all in this together. Okay, my loves. So now I'm going to invite us to get into our meditation. It's going to be very, very deep. We are going to be going into the depths of the underworld and facing those souls, because those souls that she becomes a queen of, those are your grief, your envy, your fear, your anxiety, your insecurity, and we're going to be facing them so that we can bring you into that state of wholeness. So please just be prepared for that and hold space for yourself. I'm holding space for you. I invite you to light your candle now if you haven't already, and just prepare for this ritual space. I'm just going to refill my water as I invite you to get comfortable, my loves. Get my music ready. Just going to check in with Clarice. Okay. Everything still looks good. All right. I love So just going to invite you to get very comfortable. And I'm going to find some music for the background. Okay. Too loud. So as you're doing this, I'm going to be smudging you as well. Inviting you now, my beloved, to lie down if you wish, or stay in seated meditation and get very comfortable. So I am sending you the smoke of this sage whenever you're listening to this. This is etherically reaching you from head to toe. I'm even feeling guided to send you divine Reiki energy. I always invoke the symbols in the beginning of the circle, so you will be receiving these. Just sent that to you, and it's going to be flowing to you throughout this entire healing session. Breathing, letting go, no matter what has happened before this moment. This is your time to surrender. As you feel yourself floating in a bubble of white light, the bubble now lifts you up, instantly transporting you into the inner realms, the realm of the goddess Persephone. As your bubble lands, you find yourself in a field where everything has already been harvested. It's the beginning of fall. The air is cool and crisp. The leaves are beginning to fall. The grass is just losing its color. And everything is retreating inwards. Just as Persephone is going to invite you now to delve in with her into the inner realms, the realm of the underworld. She creates a parting. You see gates open into the ground, and a chariot comes for you. And Persephone is on this chariot, and she greets you, and she asks if you are ready and willing to embark on this journey with her. Go only if you feel ready. And if not, then you can continue to listen and just let the healing Reiki of this session flow through you. And if you're ready to continue, she takes you down now into the dark realms of the underworld. The ground above is closed. The underworld representing your own inner underworld. The darkest depths of your unconscious, spiraling lower and lower and lower and lower. It's dark, maybe scary. You are right beside Persephone, who is your ally and your guide. As she takes you now to the very base, the foundation of this dark realm. You see these fragmented parts of yourself floating around, your own inner ghosts, parts of your own shadow. They come to you one by one. Your grief, And let yourself face this part of you and ask her what she is grieving. And you offer her your unconditional compassion. Let her speak, for perhaps this is the first time she feels witnessed by you and acknowledged. Just keep asking her, what else? What else do you want me to know? I'm here for you. I love you. I honor you. And now more parts of you begin to speak. Your fear, anxiety, worry. What is it afraid of? Your envy and jealousy. What is she feeling? Why does she feel this way? Does she feel that she is unworthy of having the things that she envies in others? Seeing your rage and anger, resentment. Listening, feeling, offering your unconditional compassion, acceptance, and love. Your anger, frustration, your self-pity, your doubts, your disappointments, your wounds. Let them all speak. And ask them all now, what do you need? Just like Persephone guides the souls in the afterlife, you are going to guide them into the light, into peace. So ask them what they need. And tell them from your heart what they need to hear. I love you. I'm here for you. You're okay. You're safe. You're supported. You're strong. You're powerful. You're worthy. You're valuable. It wasn't your fault. You're guiltless. You're whole. You're complete. You're divine. Whatever they need to hear, speak your heart truth to them. I love you. I honor you. I accept you. I see you. And through this witnessing, you can now guide them into the underworld, a little higher, into the realm of light, because you have illuminated all that was hidden and dark with your bravery, with your courageous compassion. And this is all they needed. And only you could do this for them. You are so powerful. And now that you have done this for them, brought them this healing, this witnessing, this validation, this support, this wisdom, this guidance, these parts of you feel honored and safe and free and light. They are fully integrated into your spirit, into your conscious awareness. And honoring you now, celebrating you, they crown you with Persephone, with a beautiful crown upon your head and robes upon you, thanking you for being the regal queen, for taking empowered responsibility and being this leader and guide for all these inner parts of yourself that you have saved, that you are the savioress of, the heroine of this journey, your story, your life. If there are any lessons and messages they have for you, these parts of you, share them with you now. Thank them once again, assuring that you are there for them, that you don't need anyone to rescue them, that you are their heroine, their guide, their queen, their protector, and that you love and accept them. And in doing so, you have loved and accepted every part of yourself. And so you rise now with Persephone. You take the reins of the chariot and ride up, fast and ferocious, fierce grace and confidence, rising up with Persephone now. And as you come up to the ground, there's a new dawn and a new beginning and spring. The ground is ready now that you've come into this wholeness. And the unconscious parts of yourself are feeling safe and secure. They're ready to support you in creating new beginnings. So you plant new seeds. Persephone gives you these pomegranate seeds to plant. And they will come into fruition now as they are aligned inside and out. You trust this, for you know that you are queen of all your realms, inner and outer, conscious and unconscious, shadow and spirit. Persephone now gives you a gift and a message to further empower and support you on your path. Perhaps guidance with the next step. She reminds you that you are a queen. Be your heroine and own your power. Thanking her with the crown on your head, riding your chariot, your golden chariot, you come back now into this realm. Regal, whole, complete, queen. So be it. And so it is. Slowly and gently rising up, bringing your palms together in front of your heart, bowing down to yourself, spirit and shadow, opening to miracles. And when you're ready, opening your eyes, grounding into the earth, wiggling your feet and toes if you need to, drinking some water, coming fully back, beloved. I hope that was deeply powerful for you, my loves. And I thank you for having the courage to go so deep. So what I invite you to do to really seal this healing in is to write down on a sheet of paper everything that those parts of yourself said, those lost parts of yourself, the grief, the fear, the doubt, the envy, the insecurity. Write them all out And that way you're really, and when we write that, we're really bringing that into conscious awareness, right? So, and it's also a way for us to connect with the heart and to express that out. And then if you feel guided, you can very safely surrender that with a burning ritual and ask Persephone, your higher self, to take that and transmute all these parts that are now ready for healing, that you accept them, but you're also not going to be defined by them, that you see them, you witness them, you love them, and you can now set them free. And that fire ritual will really create transmutation on an alchemical level for you, my loves. And then if there are messages you have from your spirit, your queen self, about the new seeds, about the new truths that you are stepping into, that you are co-creating, write those down and plant them, right? You can have them so you can see them every day. You can say them to yourself before bed, whatever works. So I am going to now, oh, and then a lovely way to seal the ritual is if you have a pomegranate afterwards, to open it, send us a picture of it in our group, please post it, and then enjoy the seeds and really enjoy them lusciously, like bite into them and just get very sensual with them, like a beautiful regal queen. Wow. Okay, so for the reading, I'm choosing the mermaids because the ocean mermaids, they get into the unconscious. Oh, so beautiful. Let me see if this is the card. I feel like it's the final one. Yes. Okay, I have our reading. So final messages from the goddess. The wave of the past, ready, set, go. So again, this reading applies no matter when you watch the circle. So it's ready, set, go. And they're saying now is a perfect moment to dive in and embrace your heart's desire. So this is talking about the immediate past, is that you perhaps come out of your comfort zone and have started something new, or you're really, really, really feeling guided and they're saying, yes, go for it. And I really hope this Persephone circle has helped to alleviate, heal some of those doubts that could have been sabotaging you or potentially sabotaging you. Okay, my loves? And then the middle card for right now is let yourself receive. And this is so sweet because it's a sister mermaid combing another mermaid's hair. It says, allow others to give you loving care. Receive without guilt or apologies. So guilt is another part of our shadow that we definitely want to heal. So please go in and face and heal and love that part of you that may feel guilty in receiving, and ask it what it needs from you in order for it to feel worthy and to feel safe, right? And oftentimes this means telling ourselves things that our parents didn't tell us, telling ourselves the opposite of what our parents did tell us if they weren't kind and loving messages, and healing that inner little girl, healing the inner child, healing the adolescent, the maiden, right? The maiden that got hurt. And why this is also so essential with Persephone is whatever pains we had, traumas we had as a maiden, we can really get stuck there and then show up in our life as the wounded, unhealed inner maiden rather than the sovereign queen. So another reason why this work is so essential. And then as we come to the future, they're just really bringing that message in, time to move on. And this goddess is really, really free. She's emerging from the ocean. She says it's time to let go of the old and warn so that the new can come in. So there's a little bit of a, not warning, but a reinforcement there of saying that whatever you were diving into in this immediate past, now you're letting yourself receive. Some old stuff might come up. And what ends up happening sometimes when we're creating these big changes, our old friends, parents, they want to hold us back because they are getting uncomfortable with who we're transforming into, right? Or we might then come to this place that's beyond the limit that we're normally used to, like our set point of happiness, our set point of receptivity, our set point of good that we allow ourselves to have. And we'll need to, again, move on from that, let go of the old and worn out so that the new can enter, because There are beautiful, wonderful new blessings coming your way. I can see them. I see gifts and presents and miracles and solutions and many things you've wanted for a long time coming your way. It's happening. So they need you to continue to do any releasing. If you find in the future the old self-sabotaging ways are coming up or other people are trying to hold you back, let it go with fierce grace. Just own it like the queen, okay, that you are, that I hope you're feeling like right now, my loves. So I so hope this has supported you. Leave a review. I think when you complete the course, you can post a review on how it served you. I'd so love to hear that, and so we can share with other sisters why this work is so essential for us women. Definitely please post in our Facebook group. I so love seeing your posts right after we do our circle, whenever you do it. Your altar, the insights, your rituals, share them with us, my loves. Okay, so let us close our circle. Now, again, opening our hearts, opening our hands, and left palm up, right hand down. And just feeling this unconditional love that we have awakened inside of us, that we have just offered to those deepest, darkest shadow parts of ourselves that are so hard to face. We have just given the self this radical gift of self-love. So deep and so profound. Let us celebrate this and send this unconditional love out to our sisters who have joined us in circle whenever. Sending this to our loved ones, sending this to all women, especially all women like Persephone, all of us who have been harassed, raped, assaulted, disempowered. Sending this unconditional love to all those parts of us that are collectively wounded and have been abused. Sending this healing to our psyches, to our bodies, to our souls. And using the pain of this to become queens, to reclaim our sovereign power, to take back what is ours, our bodies, our rights, our power, our gifts, to stand in it with fierce grace, owning our power fully, living powerfully. Thank you, Persephone. Thank you, goddesses. Thank you, all my sisters. May we all open to being the queens that we truly are, now and always, and bring this sacred feminine leadership to heal, evolve, and bless and harmonize our world. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Bringing your hands together. I love you so much. I am so, so honored to do this work with you. I can't even express how much it means to me. Thank you so much for joining me. I love you. All my love.